Are you seeing that you need to go through in the next 3 to 5 years in Lemonlight's world a period of evolution? Or is this a fundamental revolution in how we think about producing content, working with brands to deliver personalized content experiences?
Yeah, I think it's more of an evolution. When you think about the change between 3G and 4G, and it was noticeable, but I wouldn't call it a complete transformation. And I think that from an advertising perspective and a content perspective, it's going to continue to evolve. It always has. And it's a lot of things come out that people respond positively to, and a lot of things come out that never really stick. And it's about evolving and testing those different technologies and seeing what sticks and what doesn't.
So are you feeling that you will need as a company to test everything? Or how do you pick the winners? Because it's hard, right? Every business is resource constrained. So how do you go, right, this is a technology that we think is worth backing and investing in versus one that will let just flow past this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know if we have a great answer. I don't know if I have a great answer for that. I think a lot of it is based on what we hear our customers talking about, demand, where we can form those partnerships, those meaningful partnerships where we feel like we can deliver great results. We don't want to sell something that we don't fully feel like we can fulfill in a positive, meaningful way.
In other words, you just don't do tech for tech's sake. It needs to actually solve the customer's need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I guess in that trade-off between is it storytelling or is it engineering and technology, it's still the storytelling, right? Will that sustain, or are we going to get into a world where tech is going to
I mean, look, it's if somebody wants to point out, whoever's been Shakespeare since Shakespeare, I don't think you really required a certain technology set to tell the stories that he told. They've persisted through time the way they've persisted through time. So technology's never going to necessarily make somebody a better storyteller.
Yeah, it's a way to maybe tell a more immersive story, but I think at the end of the day, it all comes back to the story.
But is Shakespeare Shakespeare because there wasn't a multitude of different storytelling platforms? He's one of the, he's definitely, he's one of the greatest American English maker, love it, but I think the volume definitely impacts why he resonates, and high school curriculums literally never change.
Just going back to your question about the revolution versus evolution, I think for the operators, we see it as a revolution that they need to. Because at the moment, you're buying your traditional services through them, and you don't really, the average person doesn't look to them for other services. And if they do want to, do a lot more with 5G and really become that aggregator, that hub of services, they need to make a huge step change.
And in your work with them, what are the 2 or 3 fundamental things that they have to get right to succeed in this revolution?
Going back to what I started with, I think really around the user-based relationship, understanding that it's not an account and it's each individual. I think that's something that Google and Facebook, everybody else has gone by starting up in that world and not starting on where are you paying first. I think that's a key one, and really scale, because you can't just go and say, okay, we're gonna sell this one partner in 5G, this small Fitbit company or IoT company. You really need to be able to manage an ecosystem of partners, and you're seeing some of the leading, like an Amazon or others, create that already, and that's competition for the service providers. But Amazon's got its own challenges, right, and their own cut of the subscriptions or different services that they want to take, and the service provider can bring their own value.
But in that world, are telcos big enough? Right? If you look in any market, there are 3 or 4 telcos. There's one Amazon. There's one Google. Right? Are the telcos big enough to build those ecosystems out that can sustain their own?
Well, they've got the footprint, right? So each individual telco's got, usually a third, around 30% of the market. So they've got the footprint, they've got the relationship. Maybe they need some support in order to build those ecosystems, and essentially that's what we're looking to help them do.
And then, Jay, let me, we're running a bit short on time, but Verizon is a huge organization. You're doing some very interesting innovation. How do you bridge the gap from that's interesting innovation to it's something that works on the scale of a Verizon organization?
Yeah, I think it's a hive mind mentality. I've been at Ryot for 2 years, and every single day there's someone else in the Verizon ecosystem that I meet that has an entire kingdom that I've never heard of. And I think it's that hive mind mentality that's going to get us there, and people understand it's like the innovation that we create here, how can it be applied in consumer products, how can it be applied in sports, in stadiums, all of these different pieces slowly coming together. I think really bulletproofing it in a contained environment is important. When we set out to do this voice-activated project, there have been things that have been branching narrative, where you ask a question and get a response. There weren't a lot of things that we're doing in real time. And understands like, okay, that technology is stable, this works, we could potentially deploy something larger, we could do a voice-activated AR ad.
Fantastic. We have run out of time now, but I'd like to sort of conclude by thanking Jason, Hope, Ian and Jake for sharing their views with us this afternoon. They'll be hanging around, so do ask them any follow-up questions that you wish. And thank you everybody for your time on the stage.